Hello, folks. This is Pat. You know who I am. This is Pastor Mike Hoggard, pastor of Bethel Church in Festus, Missouri, head of prophetic research ministry. I say the head of prophetic research ministry. I'm like the head and the print guy and the computer guy. I am prophetic research ministry. Here with another Watchman video broadcast. I've got a lot of things to share with you this week, and some things that are really troubling me. Some research that I've done on a bill that, and this is what caught my eye last week. I was just kind of scanning through what was going on in the world, and a lot of you people send me emails and they say, Pastor Mike, take a look at this. And I came across a story that said climate bill set for vote after deal is reached. Now, the thing that really caught my eye, and this is kind of funny, this is me, but the thing that caught my eye was this little picture of Senate Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi. I think that's a very flattering picture. I don't know if you've seen her like on TV in real life, but whoever sketched this thing must have really been in love with Nancy Pelosi, because I don't think she's that pretty. I mean, I really don't. It kind of makes her look like she's like 35 years old or something like that. Anyway, as of last week, I digress. I chase rabbits. Anyway, as of last week, there was a new bill being put out before the House of Representatives, and it was a climate bill. Now, anybody that's done any kind of research or looked at this to any degree will tell you that this bill has like this much to do with the climate, but it has this much to do with something else. And I'll show you what that is as we move along. Anyway, as of last Wednesday, they were talking about how the bill may or may not be passed, and it was being pushed. Well, people like Nancy Pelosi and Barney Frank and Henry Waxman, who is one of the sponsors of this bill, and then, of course, President Barack Obama gets in on it. They start muscling some of these Democratic leaders, and at least 8 Republican leaders in the House of Representatives crossed over the lines, and they voted for this bill. Now, here's the end. I'm going to use some props here today, and here's some interesting things about this bill. Is that this is one of those things, and we've seen this all year long. Ever since Barack Obama got in office, all of a sudden we have these bills that are being thrust through Congress, and no one is reading the bills. No one is. Now, this is the thing. We hired representatives. We voted and hired representatives to go to Congress to do something for us, and that is represent the interest of the American people. And all we ask them to do, I mean, their job can't be that hard. I mean, it's not like they're out in the heat roofing roofs, or it's not like they're out, digging ditches or building cars. Their job, it can't be that hard. I mean, they show up, they're supposed to read a bill and say, well, I think that's a good bill, or I don't think this is a good bill for my people. And then they show up and vote for it. Now, I won't even get into in our Congress how many times senators and representatives don't even bother to show up to vote on important pieces of legislation. But aside from all that, we hired them and elected them to represent the interests of the people of the United States of America. And all we ask them to do is read the bills that they're going to sign. You remember a TV show called MASH. I used to watch MASH a lot when I was a kid. And one of my favorite characters was a character called Radar. Now, Radar would go in. He was the company clerk. And Radar would always go in, and he would have a whole stack of papers that he wanted the colonel to sign. And he would just say, here, sign this, sir. Here, sign this, sir. And he would always show him the bottom where he wanted him to sign. And every now and then, the colonel would say, Radar, what is it I'm signing? And Radar would say, don't worry about it, sir. I'm just getting the job done. Well, that's apparently what's going on in Congress. I'm going to illustrate this for you. I brought some paper with me, and I'm going to illustrate this for you. This is a paper we use here in our church. This is 500 sheets. Let me put this here where we can get it in the camera shot here. This is 500 sheets of paper. Now, just imagine that some congressmen and some bill writers, lawyers, you know how they are with words, they spent time and they wrote out on every page of this 500 sheets of paper, okay? This is going to represent the climate bill that was just passed in the House of Representatives. And they're talking like, it may run into trouble in the Senate. You watch and see. And remember the game plan. If they don't get this passed all in one bill, then what they're going to do is they're going to take pieces of it, and there's going to be some other bill come along, and they're going to stick it in there somewhere where nobody will notice it. It's going to be passed somehow, some way. There's too much money involved in this, and I'm going to show you how this works. So here's 500 pieces of paper, and just imagine that this bill is written on that. But that's not the whole bill. The bill originally started out. Let me get another 500 pieces of paper here. Put that on top of this like this. Let's take, I'm going to guess, let's take 100 sheets of paper off of there, set that aside. Now, the bill originally started out as being a 900-page bill, okay? And all of a sudden, it's out there. And we ask our congressman to read what's on here. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never, other than the Bible, and I haven't done it all at once, I've never sat down and read a 900-page book or a 900-page document. You can imagine some of the stuff that would be hidden right here in the middle of this thing that practically nobody who was supposed to know about it would ever know about it. So there's things probably in this thing, 900 pages, that there is no way that anybody in Congress could have ever read this in the short time that they've had it. And they have staff. They have people that work for them. And well, let's see, in the case of some of our congressmen, they do more than just work for them. But anyway, they have people that work for them that, could be employed full-time to say, go through this and read this thing to see if there's anything that you know that I wouldn't like in it, so I won't vote on it. They didn't even bother to do that. Most of the people that voted on this bill voted on the title of the bill, and they voted based upon the fact that they were told to vote on it by Nancy Pelosi, Henry Waxman. And if you know why I'm doing this, if you've ever seen Henry Waxman, you know why I'm doing this. He's just got a weird-looking nose. But anyway, so here is a 900-page bill that made it through all the committees and all the subcommittees and all this and that and the other, rushed through, and they were scheduled to vote on it last Friday. Last Thursday night at 4 o'clock in the morning, I kid you not, they took, let's see, here's another 100 pages, and let's see here. Let's pull out about another 200 pages here from our copy paper. At 4 o'clock in the morning, just hours before this thing was to be voted on, they added another 300 pages worth of amendments to this bill. There is no way that the people that we elected to represent our interest, our needs, there's no way that those people did their job. And I've been thinking about this all week. I've been kind of praying about this, and I understand that things that I say, they kind of stick with people, and I understand the responsibility of that. And so I try to be careful to make sure that what I say is biblical, and I'm going to show you a biblical aspect of this. But what I tell you is responsible, and what I think that I can safely say in this broadcast. And I know we have watchers all over the world, but concerning the United States of America and what's going on in here, we're going to have an election in 2010. We're going to have an election next year of the House of Representatives of the United States of America. And America, vote them all out. Get rid of every single one of them. None of them, or I would say probably 90% of them, 95% of them, are not consistently voting in the best interest of the people of the United States of America. Now, you might get upset with me and say, oh, Pastor Micah, my representative does this and does that. I'm telling you, I think the Democrats and Barack Obama were right. It is time for a change in this country. But the change that they're making, and I'm going to show you some things about this. In fact, I want to get this out of my way here so I can work here, because I don't like what this represents. So I'm going to scoot this over here. But you just kind of glance at that. Here is 1,200 pages of change for America. We do need change in this country. And by the way, I have some monopoly money here too. We're gonna see what this is here in a little bit. 1,200 pages of change, and I am for change for America, but not the kind of change that's being represented by our elected leaders in this country and by the President of the United States. And so I just want you to think about that. So they passed the climate bill. According to Politico, let's read this story. Democrats narrowly passed historic climate and energy legislation Friday evening that would, I want you to look at the language here, that would transform the country's economy and industrial landscape. Transformation is one of those words that I've used consistently in the videos that we have done through our ministry, and I've talked about it several times on this broadcast. It's one of those words. Remember that Barack Obama, Deepak Chopra said that Barack Obama represented the transformation of America. It is the transformation that the New Agers, the secret societies, everyone has been pushing for in this country. That transformation is taking place right in front of our very eyes. This is not the country that our forefathers founded. This is not the country that your granddaddy lived in and worked for. This is not the country that you and I grew up in. This is a transformed country right in front of our very eyes. The whole purpose of the banking collapse was about transformation. The health care crisis that Barack Obama is pushing right now, it's about transformation. And all of these are new age terms. And I know that probably some of you have never watched this broadcast before. You think, oh, this guy's crazy. This guy's an idiot. Well, I'm telling you, us right-wing people, us people who have been talking about conspiracy theories for the past 30 years, we're found out to be right. We're being proven to be right today. The conspiracy is real, and I'm going to show it to you from the authority on conspiracies from the King James Bible. But anyway, back to the article. But the all-hands-on-deck effort to protect politically vulnerable Democrats by corralling the minimum number of votes to pass the bill, 219 to 212, proves that there are limits to President Barack Obama's ability to use his popularity to push through his legislative agenda. 44 Democrats voted against the bill, while just 8 Republicans crossed the aisle to back it. Now, from what I heard from some of these talking heads that are on hey, I'm a talking head. You know, my head is talking. From these talking heads on television was that this was made to look like that it was a narrow margin. But actually, Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama have so much power that they wield in the House of Representatives that they told some of their Democratic partners, you can vote no if you want to, so long as we don't need the vote to pass. You can vote no on this. Some of what they call the Farm Belt Democrats, those Democrats who represent a large constituency of farmers in this country, they were told that they could vote no in order to save face with their constituents. But the bottom line is, Nancy Pelosi said, if we need your vote, you are going to vote for what we tell you to vote for. That's not representing the will of the people. That's representing the special interests. And this is what we're going to talk about on this broadcast. I may not deal with too many other things, but I am going to deal with this because I'm very disturbed at what's happening in our country. It's really bothering me. And all I need to do is go to the pages of the Bible, and we're going to do that to show you exactly what's going on. I'm glad that we have the light and the truth of the Scriptures, folks, to tell us and encourage us and help us live in the times that we're living in. Here's another article. Obama implores Senate to pass the climate bill. Hours after the House passed landmark legislation meant to curb greenhouse gas emissions and create an energy-efficient economy, President Barack Obama on Saturday urged senators to show courage and follow suit. The sharply debated bill's fate is unclear in the Senate, and Obama used his weekly radio and internet address to ratchet up pressure on the 100-seat chamber. He says, "My call to every senator as well as to every American is this," he said, "we cannot be afraid of the future. We must not be prisoners of the past. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. Don't believe the misinformation out there that suggests there is somehow a contradiction between investing in clean energy and economic growth. Now, I want you to kind of think about what the president is saying, because I'm going to show you exactly what he means by this statement. He goes on to say it will spur the development of low carbon sources of energy, everything from wind, solar, and geothermal power to safer nuclear energy, or as some say, nuclear, and cleaner coal, he said. House Democratic leaders said the bill helped accomplish one of Obama's campaign promises and would make the U.S. a leader in international efforts to address climate change when negotiations take place in Copenhagen later this year. Here's what Nancy Pelosi said. Now, remember the lingo. Here's what she said. We passed transformational legislation which will take us into the future. Remember that word, transformational. My son is sitting in the background back here, my son Matthew. He's waving at me, and every time I do something stupid like that, he just looks at me and goes, "Is that my father? Is that my dad?" Oh my goodness. Nancy Pelosi goes on to say, for some it was a very difficult vote. Because the entrenched agents of the status quo were out there in full force, jamming the lines in their districts and here, and they withstood that. Jamming the lines. You know what she's talking about, don't you? She's talking about the right of the people to address their representative and say, I don't want this. And she's sort of demonizing these people for how dare you call us and represent the status quo. Now here's what the status quo represent. Here's the status quo that Nancy Pelosi was talking about when she said this. The status quo of the United States Constitution. Status means it's fixed and it doesn't change. That was the purpose of the way that the Constitution was written and the way that it was meant to be, unaltered and unchanged, except by a majority, not of the Congress, but a majority of the will of the people of the United States of America. That's the status quo. That's the status quo that she's talking about. And the status quo that her, Henry Waxman, Barney Frank, Barack Obama, all of these guys in Congress, that's the status quo that they hate. They cannot stand something that will not change. The Bible says, and this is a spirit that's moving through our country. It's a spirit that's moving through our churches, and we've made that spirit known in several of our videos. It is that harlot spirit that you see throughout the pages of the Scripture. Her name is Jezebel. Her name, Nancy Pelosi. Her name is Nancy Pelosi. Her name is Hillary Clinton. Her name is Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs concerning this strange woman spirit that is guiding what's going on in our country and going on in our churches, the Bible says her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. In other words, a spirit that constantly recommends change from the status quo, change from the static old school, change from what is written down, is a spirit that you see all through the Scriptures and a spirit that's moving through our country right now. So when she says status quo, she means the Constitution. When she says status quo, she means states' rights. And if there was ever a time when the states of the United States need to establish and send word to Washington, D.C. that we are an autonomous body under the federal government, that we have rights that we don't want altered or changed, that time is now. When she talks about the status quo being in the way, she's referring to we the people. Because these people, I'm telling you, these people in Washington, D.C., both sides of the aisle, are so arrogant and so cocky about their suppositions and their ideologies They think that you and I are stupid, especially the you and I who still believe and read this and trust in this. They think we're stupid. And they think that we the people means the elected representatives who are smarter than us, who really, they're doing this for the benefit of, don't you understand? We're trying to help you. Don't you get it? That by imposing these Nazi communist regulations on you, we're doing it for your own good because we know better for you what you need. And this stuff is just absolutely driving me insane. Now, I want you to get this. I want you to understand really what all this green technology and all. I want you to understand what this really is all about. And in order to understand this, you just need to read this. There's a verse in this book, one of the most dangerous verses I think in the world. And it tells you really how things operate, how things move, how things shake. If you want to understand Washington, D.C., it's right here. This is a Bible, by the way. The love of money is the root of all evil. Now, that's what the King James says. Now, the other translations, another translation would say the love of money is a root of all evil. That's wrong. The love of money is the root of all evil. What is it that drives a harlot? Money. Harlots are not in it for the sex. They're in it for the money. That's why they do what they do. And so we're going to chase the money down. Now, here's an interesting article I read, and I'm just going to give you a few bits and pieces of it. This was written on May 21st, 2009. Now, this is a few weeks ago, before this climate bill was passed by the House of Representatives. Industries are grappling with new bill on climate. The American Clean Energy and Security Act is one of the most ambitious efforts to, watch this, re-engineer American social and economic behavior. This is like Pavlov and his dogs. I don't know if you understand. Ivan Pavlov was one of these psychiatrists, I don't know, 7,500 years ago, something like that. Anyway, he did this experiment showing that dogs' behavior could be transformed, could be changed. And so he had these dogs, and what he would do is he would ring a bell, and then food would drop out of a chute, and the dog would eat the food. And pretty soon, and he would measure the amount of salivation that was coming out of these dogs' mouth. So what Pavlov discovered is that just by ding, ringing a bell, he can make the dog salivate. Okay? So we are the Pavlovian dogs. We are the dogs in this country who need their behavior re-engineered and transformed and changed. So let me get back to this here. The American Clean Energy and Security Act is one of the most ambitious efforts to re-engineer American social and economic behavior in decades, presenting risks and opportunities for a wider array of businesses from Silicon Valley to the coal fields of the Appalachians. The legislation, better known as the Waxman-Markey bill, isn't yet law and has big hurdles to clear. A critical vote looms this week in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. And I'm going to skip down to the very next paragraph here. At a White House meeting Wednesday, members of President Barack Obama's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. Now I want to ask you, have you ever heard of the Economic Recovery and Advisory Board? And it's not part of any department or anything like that. This is a special committee that Barack Obama himself organized. And we're going to see some of the names on this committee here. But remember that, the Economic Recovery Advisory Board endorsed the central idea, the 900-plus page measure, now it's 1,200 pages, to cap carbon emissions and require businesses to buy tradable permits to pollute. Now, see, this is funny to me. This is funny. Because here you have 1,200 pages of a bill that they're selling you as a way to make sure that businesses and people don't pollute the environment anymore. And yet, the thrust of this bill, the core of this bill, is not about reducing carbon emissions. It's about taxing car. You know what tax is, don't you? It's money. It's money. That's what this is all about. So I'm going to put and I use Monopoly money here. I had Matthew go through here and see if we had any Monopoly money around. And I'm using Monopoly money to show a point here. Monopoly, I want you to think about that. Think about what a monopoly is, because that's what this is, okay? Anyway, to buy tradable permits to pollute. The measure could create green jobs in the U.S. while reducing harmful pollution that might be causing global climate change, executives in the group said. They included the General Electric chief executive, Jeffrey Immelt, who sat next to the president. Boy, I wish, in fact, right after I record this, I'm going to see if I can, in fact, I'm going to make a note here to myself. I'm going to make a note, see if I can find a picture of Jeffrey Immelt sitting next to Barack Obama. I think that would make a great graphic. So if I find it, I'm going to put up on the screen here for you. But anyway, here's the deal, okay? Obama makes this new advisory board, okay? Now, these are people that sit around and say, Mr. President, we think you ought to do this. Mr. President, we think you ought to do that. Okay? Because Barack Obama, no one man is smart enough to write 1,200 pages of a bill. He needs people. The president has people. One of those people is the head of General Electric. Now, you would think that General Electric, a company, a corporation with factories that just puff out billowing smoke from their stacks. These evil cigar-smoking guys going, we're going to ruin the we're going to ruin the environment here, but we're going to make a bunch of money. You would think that these guys are the guys that would say, Mr. Obama, you're going to kill the economy. You're going to kill America if you pass a bill like this. No. Immelt was chosen specifically for the kind of man that he was. I did a little digging. It says here that Immelt named to Obama's new Economic Advisory Board. President Barack Obama has named Jeffrey Immelt, CEO of NBC Universal parent GE, and we're going to see NBC here in all this, to his new Economic Advisory Board. The new board is modeled on the Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board created under President Dwight Eisenhower, according to the White House, and will provide, quote, an independent voice on economic issues, and will be charged with offering independent advice to the president as he formulates and implements his plans for economic recovery. The board, which will meet regularly to advise the president on programs to jumpstart the economy and how those programs are working, features a mix of executives from various industries, academics, and a representative of the AFL-CIO, the labor unions. Imagine that, okay? And others. Now, here's an article that I found, and remember, words mean something. And I see these little buzzwords being used, and when you see these words, you understand exactly what they're referring to. If you watch this ministry and watch the videos that we put out, you understand exactly what's going on. This is from the Examiner.com. This is an article about GE Healthcare. Here's the thing. Jack Welch. Jack Welch was one of these old school CEOs. He was brought into General Electric several years ago to basically get the company to make money. They were really struggling. Jack Welch came in, and now GE is making money hand over fist. Working under Jack Welch was a guy named Jeffrey Immelt. Now, previous to the position that Immelt now holds as the head of General Electric, Immelt was the head of GE Healthcare, a division of GE that, quote, provides, here it is, transformational medical technologies and services that are shaping a new age of patient care. Imagine that. So now we know that Jeffrey Immelt, the head of General Electric, the guy who sits right next to the President of the United States, an unelected person who is telling Barack Obama, this is what we want you to do. Now go do it. This guy's a new ager. He is in the new age. He is, by way of the language that they're using here, transformational, a new age of patient care, transformational medical technologies. If you've seen our video on The Secret of Solomon's Key, we have a new one coming out called The Mother of All Secrets, Triple Helix, the New Age Rick Warren, and the Great Falling Away. All these videos, all these things, God's been showing me this for years, and now it's starting to click now. They're trying to change humanity, transform them into the new age. And they're going to use technology. They're going to use the government. They're going to use everything that they can to transform humanity. And GE Healthcare is part of that. So now we have a new ager. Now we're going to talk conspiracies just for a minute, okay? Because now we sort of connecting the dots here. We have a new ager. And a new ager is someone who is being guided by familiar spirits. We've talked about this before, and we have this in a video, but I want you to look at Leviticus chapter 20, verse 6. The soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, to go a-whoring after them. There's that word there. I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. God said, number one, no one should be consulting with devils, familiar spirits, with the devil himself. Number two, no one should be listening to someone who is consulting after familiar spirits. So what I'm pretty sure is happening is that, number one, in the churches all across this country, we have pastors that are consulting with familiar spirits. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever, through contemplative prayer or through whatever it is, they're either consulting with familiar spirits or they're following after men and women who have consulted with familiar spirits. That's why the church is in the state that is. That's why the church right now is constantly giving seminars on sex and trying to, as we talked about on last week's broadcast, trying to market themselves as a strip club. That's because they're consulting after familiar spirits. And once you learn from the Bible how to spot these guys, it's easy to figure out who's leading them. But then we have a situation, remember in Ezra chapter 4, in fact, go read this excellent, outstanding thing here, because they were trying to build the wall. They were trying to build their defense against their enemies in Jerusalem. In the book of Ezra, this is after they came back from Babylonian captivity. And when these guys came and saw them build, when their enemies saw them build the wall, they said, man, we can't have this. So they conspired against them. First of all, they showed up and said, let's work together. Okay, let's just get along. Let's work together. I saw somebody sent me a clip of what's the guy, Infowars.com, Alex Jones, talking with David Icke. Now, if you don't know who David Icke is a nut. He's crazy. David Icke is demon possessed. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind about it. And and I know some of you guys watch Infowars and all this. I can't remember his name. Alex Jones. I know some of you watch him and listen to everything that he said. And every now and then there's some information that he passes along that I think is worthy. But be careful. Please be careful, because in this video clip, David Icke and Alex Jones they're talking about how they need to work together to solve the problems that we're facing in this country and in this world. And I'm saying there's not any reason that I can think of to ever work with or listen to David Icke, because he's consulting with familiar spirits. Please be careful. So they said, let's just get along now. Let's work on building this wall together. But that's not what was going to happen. As soon as the enemies of Israel got involved in the wall building, they were either going to shut it down or they were going to build themselves secret ways in. And I want you to get that. I want you to just focus on that. In your own personal life, you know exactly how this works in your life. The devil would just love to get you tied into what's going on in this world. But anyway, when that didn't work, in Ezra chapter 4, verse 4, the Bible says, "Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building," and watch this, "and hired counselors against them." We have two words here. Number one, the word counselor. Those who are consulting with familiar spirits, now counseling the churches and counseling elected leaders and so on and so on. And then we have the second word, hired. How do you hire somebody? You give them money. We have a bunch of pastors sitting in pulpits today that are hirelings. They've been hired to do the job, and they're paid very, very well for what it is that they're doing. The love of money is the root of all evil. You want to find out why a pastor would go from being a fundamental Bible-believing pastor to a New Ager? He's doing it for the monopoly money. That's why he's doing it. Boy, I got to move on. Anyway, here's Jeffrey Immelt. He is the hired counselor to Barack Obama. Now, I'm going to put a thing up here on the screen. We're going to talk about it. Here's our beloved president, the Messiah himself, Barack Obama. He has a mark on his forehead. It's the General Electric logo. And we're just going to kind of track down the money here for a few minutes. So bear with me on this broadcast, okay? But hopefully by the time I'm done here, you'll be glad you watched this. And I want to encourage you, if you like what you see here, I want you to send links to everybody saying, man, you have got to watch this, okay? And you guys know me. You guys have been watching me. It's not about money on this broadcast because I don't get paid for doing this, okay? This is about getting the message out and warning people that we're in some very, very dangerous times. But we're gonna kind of follow the money trail. We're gonna find out why Barack Obama and the House and the Senate are doing what they're doing and what they have been doing in America up till now. This is why we're doing it. So first of all, remember that Jeffrey Immelt used to be head of GE Healthcare, okay? Healthy Choices, or whatever it was they called themselves. In fact, I got a thing up here we're going to show you here in a little bit. GE Healthcare, and GE, General Electric Healthcare, is involved. In fact, let's look at the deal here. Health Imagination. Now, this word imagination is a New Age word, and it's found specifically in the King James Bible. Let me get my Bible over here so you can see it. It's found in the Bible because imagination has to do with how that harlot spirit works inside of us. You see, when we read the Bible, we don't need our imagination. In fact, Paul said to cast out imaginations and every lofty thing that stands against the Word of God. He said to cast imaginations out. So we see imagination moving into the church, and it's that spirit. So proof that General Electric is part of the New Age movement with healthy imagination. Now, on this next little graphic here, I want you to look at what health imagination does. I mean, General Electric is not a company full of doctors and nurses that are sitting around thinking how they can improve health care for people's lives. No. What they have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years is building an infrastructure, because in order to pass a 1,200-page bill, you have to have the infrastructure to implement the bill. And the infrastructure, oddly enough, has been being built now for the last probably 5-10 years. How is it that these companies knew to build the infrastructure? So 5 years ago, GE got involved in the health records technology. Well, lo and behold, in a stimulus bill that was passed right after Barack Obama became president, they took something here called the medical records technology, whatever it was. Barack Obama built an entirely new department of his administration to deal with health information technology. Everybody's medical records is going to be scanned and put into a computer database. Guess who's making the machines and the infrastructure to record electronically everybody's health record? So they took this thing, they jammed it in the stimulus bill, hid it in there so nobody would see it. It's now law. General Electric has been building these machines and this infrastructure for the last several years under Jeffrey Immelt. So now, all of a sudden, here's just a few pages, just a few pages of a bill, okay? And now, all of a sudden, General Electric is going to make billions of dollars selling the equipment and the infrastructure to doctors, hospitals all over the country. They're raking in huge amounts of money. And here's the guy running General Electric sitting right next to Barack Hussein Obama. But anyway, let's move on. Man, we've got so much to talk about here. On the Health Imagination Board of Directors, and this is what this made me mad. I mean, this made me very, very angry. Because when I'm telling you in 2010, vote everybody out. Let's start all over again. And I'm not saying let's have a revolution where we pull out our guns and start shooting government officials. But let's start all over again. Let's vote new people in, for crying out. People that have not been sitting in the House of Representatives for the last 20 years, who have amassed so much power and authority like Nancy Pelosi, that they can do whatever it is they feel like doing and get away with it. Let's vote some new people in who don't know how to play by the rules. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. Libertarian, I don't care. Vote them in. Get the old guys out. Because here, the guys that are sitting on the Health Imagination Board of Directors, Senator Tom Daschle, I mean, this guy's a lifer. He's been in Congress for years, and he'll probably never be voted out. And in fact, if you remember, Tom Daschle was the guy who was supposed to be on President Barack Obama's Health and Human Services Department. He was supposed to be the head of that, and he was sitting under Jeffrey Immelt on the board of directors of Health Imagination. But of course, Tom Daschle had this little problem that, it's no big deal. He hadn't been paying his taxes, and they didn't do anything about it, and he got a pass on it. Then we have Representative Bill Frist. Now, some of these names you might know of. Bill Frist was a part of the Frist family that owns Hospital Corporation of America, the largest private operator of healthcare facilities in America. So his family owns most of the hospitals, most of the healthcare places in this country, or I'd say a huge part of them. They're making billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And they just happen to have Bill Frist as part of their family. And he's in Washington voting on things that have to do with health care, sitting on the board of Health Imaginations. And here is a guy, Jeffrey Immelt, an unelected official of America. Nobody voted on this guy, and yet he's got most of the power right now, telling Tom Daschle, Bill Frist, this is what we need to do. This is what, and when you sit on the board, you determine how everything is going to go. And by the way, you make a lot. These guys make a ton of money sitting on boards like this. And then we have, and this made me mad, Newt Gingrich. Okay, now maybe I've just lived in a closet. Maybe for a while I really thought that the conservatives in Congress really were conservative, that they really had the best interest of we the people in mind. And this is what really, this angered me. Newt Gingrich, the reason why he's sitting on the board is that Newt Gingrich started one of these not-for-profit organizations called the Center for Health Transformation. You know what that word means, okay? And all of these guys, they're in on it. They're part of it. Now, let's move on. Let's get to some other places here. So we have General Electric, and there's Barack Obama again with this mark on his forehead called GE. And so GE runs healthcare technologies, and all of a sudden GE now is making billions of dollars because they already have the infrastructure that's needed to implement this healthcare records thing. Then you remember GE Capital. Well, let's see. Now GE's in the banking business. You thought that General Electric just made light bulbs, okay? Because you have a light bulb in your house and it says General Electric on it, and you say, oh, that's GE there. GE's been in the banking industry. Now, GE just recently, in fact, November 2008, they joined the FDIC so that they can be part of the group that received $139 billion of tax money in part of the TARP bailout program. So in like one stroke of Obama's pen, Barack Obama, all of a sudden GE is they're making money hand over fist. I mean, they're just raking it in because Jeffrey Immelt sits on the board. Anyway, now, we all know that General Electric owns and has owned for years NBC, MSNBC, CNBC. These are the guys, NBC is notorious For whatever Barack Obama wants, Barack Obama gets through NBC. NBC and CNN, these are the guys that help get Barack Obama elected. These are the guys that help push this liberal agenda in order. I mean, you have to think about it. Here's a bunch of guys, here are a bunch of cigar-smoking guys sitting in a room that are trying to make the most money that they possibly can because they love money. And in order to do that, they need the laws to go their way. So they spent untold millions, maybe even billions of dollars getting these guys elected. And it worked. It worked really well. It's going to pay off for them. So here we have NBC and MSNBC and CNBC, which is their business channel, basically it's selling whatever the administration wants them to sell. And it's working very, very well. Then we get into General Electric, which joined what's called the Climate Action Partnership. They formed a group called Eco-Imagination. Boy, there it is again, the word imagination. And Eco-Imagination as a company stands to make billions of dollars on this climate bill. Now let's go back a little bit. The Climate Action Partnership is a coalition of major corporations, other organizations including Alcoa, General Electric, DuPont, Duke Energy, Caterpillar, PG&E, the FPL Group, P&M Resources, and Lehman Brothers. Have you heard of these guys? These guys they're for the climate. They're for making America much greener and the air much easier to breathe. That's what they're for. They're for making lives better for all of us. Man, I'm already an hour into this, and I still have a few ways to go, so just bear with me just a little bit. This group was formed back in January of 2007, as if they knew that something was going to turn their way. As part of this Climate Action Partnership, you see there on the bottom of the screen, they wrote a document called a Blueprint for Legislative Action. A blueprint for legislative, you know what that is, okay? See here we have 1,200 pages of a bill. Who sits and writes 1,200 pages of legal terms, definitions, and things that will become law in the United States of America? This thing has been, they didn't just sit down and say, man, Al Gore's right. Man, we need action now. Quickly, let's write a bill that will save America. It's not how it happened. This stuff's been worked on for years. And part of the Climate Action Partnership has been writing a blueprint for legislative action. In other words, the guys who are running the businesses, they're the ones that wrote the law. They're the ones who wrote the bill so that the green people could get what they wanted, or a semblance of what they wanted, and the people who are running the monopoly, well, they get what they want. They get billions and billions and billions of dollars. And this is all about money. So part of the thing that the Climate Action Partnership and Eco-Imagination, here's what GE's been doing. Now remember, GE doesn't, they're not planting trees, okay? They're not planting trees and they're not saving whales. What General Electric is in the business of doing is making money. And since they have GE, they have all this technology stuff ready and they have all this banking stuff ready, then GE is like the prime company to do what's contained in this bill. Let me explain a little bit about what that is, okay? The biggest part of this bill has to do, and we talked about that a while ago, it has to do with money. It has to talk about, it has to do with trading what they call green credits or environment credits. And here's the thing, okay? The bill says, and I'm going to use my monopoly money now here. The bill says that here we have these evil industries all over the country. In fact, this bill doesn't just include the industries. It includes you and I. Running our lawnmowers, running our washing machines, running our air conditioners, our SUVs are evil. They're destroying the habitat of our country. And so they said, we need to stop that. This is the largest tax increase in American history. Barack Obama said, I'm not going to raise anybody's taxes except for the super rich. You're fixing to get it. You are fixing to get it. Next time, if this thing goes through, just watch and see what your electric bill what happens to your electric bill, what happens to your gasoline cost. Okay? But anyway, here's the core of it. All these evil companies out there that are polluting the environment with stacks of smoke. The government says, we're going to give you credits, carbon footprint credits. And let's say that there's an evil company out there that, they're just smoking up the environment, okay? They're only going to be given just a few credits to work with, okay? You're going to keep them in business, but we're just going to give them just a few of them, okay? Now, General Electric has their, the Echo Imagination Corporation. Echo Imagination Corporation. They have a company called Greenhouse Gas Services. Okay, Greenhouse Gas Services. Now, remember, General Electric built this company years ago, and it was a company without any purpose whatsoever. And now all of a sudden, 1,200 pages later, now all of a sudden, this company, well, they found their purpose. They found their life's goal. Now they can actually make money. Why? Because Jeffrey Immelt sits next to Barack Obama and tells him what to do. So General Electric now, they get all of this, okay? And they get it because the Greenhouse Gas Services has one job. And that is this evil company here that's destroying the environment, the United States of America. Well, there is no way that they can, they're going to try. They're going to try to do their best with what little they have to clean up their smokestacks and quit dumping all their garbage into Lake Michigan or the Mississippi River. But then what this evil company can do now is that they can go to the greenhouse gas station and they say, you know what, we can't do what we need to do, what this bill's telling us we have to do. Well, the greenhouse gas company says, we got you fixed up here. All you need to do is buy from us a free pass. And if you buy from us a free pass, then what you now can do is you can now afford to pollute the environment. That's what this is, okay? And if that's not enough, why, we have lots of them. Okay? We have lots of these. You can now, in fact, now if you have the money, you can pollute the environment all you want if you have the money. And so that's what General Electric's greenhouse gas station is doing. They're selling them along with Lehman Brothers and all these other. This is now a commodity that's going to be traded on the stock market. Okay? I'm using General Electric as an example, but I cannot begin to tell you the number of companies, large corporations that stand to make billions and billions of dollars selling greenhouse gas credits. We have them. You need them. We'll sell them to you. This is not government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Let me tell you what this is. 1 Samuel chapter 8. See, I believe in the Bible. I believe the Bible's got all the answers here. And 1 Samuel chapter 8, remember that the people of Israel, they wanted to be like the Europeans. The Europeans have kings. We want kings. We want someone to dominate and lord over us. They did so as a result of the failure of Eli, who was the judge and high priest over Israel, to do his job the way the Bible told him to do it. Eli was a failure in that he let his sons be corrupt. See, it all starts out, folks, it all starts out with the church. It starts out with the pastors, with the preachers, with the denominations, with the Bible college. All this that you see here did not start anywhere except the failure of the pulpits of this country to say and to do what was right. And the people, as a natural byproduct of Eli's failure to raise his sons correctly according to the Word of God, these guys were corrupt. The people said, you know what? We don't want the church ruling over us anymore. We want a king. And Samuel was angry. Samuel said, hey, you know what? In fact, it was Samuel's two sons, too, that were part of this. It wasn't just Eli. It was a long string of abuses by Eli and then by Samuel's sons, who were corrupt as well. And so they said, we want a king. And Samuel got mad. He went to God and said, God, they kill them. Kill them, get rid of them. They want a king. And God said, I'm going to give them what they want, Samuel. And just be careful, people, about what you pray for, because God just might end up giving it to you. Okay? But he said, Samuel, here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell them that when they're going to get their king, tell them what they're going to get. And this is what Samuel said by the word of the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 10. Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself. Well, that's AmeriCorps. That sounds exactly like what Barack Obama is doing with the children of this country. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants. And you know what he's saying? He said he's going to tax the daylights out of you. And this is what you asked for. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not hear you in that day. And I'll tell you what, that's scary. To think that we would get to a time in this country when America would cry out to God and God won't hear. That's scary. He then goes on to say, nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us. There have been some good preachers in this country that have been trying to preach the truth. They've been trying to tell people and warn them exactly what was going on. There were preachers that came out in the 50s that said, don't listen to rock and roll. It's going to destroy your family. Almost 60 years later, rock and roll has destroyed this country. It has ruined the American family. But people didn't listen. They said, we just want a king. And that's what they got. And there was preachers trying to warn the country about how they voted. And nobody listened. They said, give it to us anyway. Because I need my benefits. I need my government benefits. I'll lose $1 a week if I don't get this. And that's what they did. Here's what President Martin Van Buren said. One of our former presidents. Here's what he said. He said, by ceasing to run in debt and applying the surplus of our crops and incomes to the discharge of existing obligations. You know what he was talking about? He's talking about debt and paying interest on debt. He said, by ceasing to run in debt and by applying all of our surplus to pay the interest on the debt, he said, we shall see our country soon recover from a temporary depression. You know how, think about this, the wisdom. By saying, when we're in depression, let's not go into debt. Let's wait it out. We'll be far better in the end if we won't go in debt. He said, fortunately for us at this moment, when the balance of trade is greatly against us and the difficulty of meeting it enhanced by the disturbed state of our money affairs, the bounties of providence have come to relieve us from the consequences of past errors. He said, God helped us. He said, our surplus profits, the energy and industry of our population, and the wonderful advantages which Providence has bestowed upon our country will in due time afford abundant means. But he said, abuses, as we are now encountering, seek to perpetuate their power by means of the influence they have been permitted to acquire, to gain for the few an ascendancy over the many by securing to them a monopoly of the currency. There it is, folks, a monopoly of the currency, to nourish in preference to the manly virtues that give dignity to human nature, a craving desire for luxurious enjoyment and sudden wealth, which renders those who seek them dependent on those who supply them, to substitute for republican simplicity and economical habits a sickly appetite for effeminate indulgence and an imitation of that reckless extravagance. I wish we had guys who believed that nowadays. John Adams said, "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality and religion." Avarice. You know what that's another word we don't use anymore. You know what avarice means? It means greed. It means wanting to rake it all in, no matter what the cost. Avarice, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Those words, my friend, are ringing true today. We're in trouble, and our Constitution will not be able to bail us out. The Constitution, the bands of the Constitution have been broken by the dollar bill. And now no one cares anymore. No one cares about the freedoms and the safety that our Constitution provided. All they care about is this. And it started because preachers didn't preach the word anymore. Continue to pray for our ministry. Continue to pray for the work that we do here. Continue to pray that God will use what we do here. We love doing this. I love doing this. And as I began to see these things last week, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. See, when the watchman sees the sword coming, he can't keep his mouth shut. He has to blow the trumpet. And I hope that I continue to be that for all those who care. Take this program. We're going to offer it on DVD. Take this program. Watch it. Send links to people. Say, you've got to watch this. Not for my popularity, not for so that we can rake the money in, but so that people can be warned and see what's coming, and maybe hopefully warn others that the sword is coming to our land. We need to be prepared. We need to be equipped. We need to stand ready as we approach the days that we live in. Keep watching us. Appreciate your help. Appreciate everything that everybody has done for us. Appreciate all the prayers that you send our way. And if you'd like to be on our watchers list, we want to encourage you to get on our list and sign up for that, and we'll send you all these broadcasts and all new videos. We've got some great new videos coming out, and so sign up on the watchers list. You can get the details from our website. Also, August 1st and 2nd, we're having a Bethel homecoming. We'd like for you to come from wherever you are in the world. I got one response from a lady in Great Britain, said, "Sorry, can't be there." We got people that watch us from all over the world. Get in your car, start now driving to get to Festus, Missouri. We'll have the details posted on our website of where you can stay, where you can eat. Now, we do plan on feeding you some of the meals that you'll need here while you're here, but we'd love to see you August 1st, Saturday night, and August 2nd, just to be in fellowship with our church. And then Sunday afternoon, we're going to feed you dinner Sunday after church, and then Sunday afternoon, we plan a special live studio audience recording of the Watchman video broadcast. I'm looking forward to meeting some of you people, and I hope that you're looking forward to meeting us here at our church as well. We love you, and send this out to people. Let people see what's going on in our country. This is Pastor Mike. I love you. God bless you. Bye-bye.